EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to the Week 2 JAKIB post-game show. A stone-cold stunner. The Eagles lose 22-21 to the Atlanta Falcons at the end. Saquon Barkley, from hero to villain, he drops the icing on the cake to finish the game out. He drops the pass. Falcons go down 6 plays, 75 yards, 65 seconds, no timeouts, and a touchdown to Drake London, and the Atlanta Falcons win this one. That's Dan Sileo. I'm Zander Krause. We'll be joined by John McMullen live from the Novacare Complex, the Lincoln Financial Field. Dan Sileo, the Eagles are 1-1. They lose to the Atlanta Falcons. What's your initial takeaways?
Absolutely a colossal disaster at the end of the ball game. Dude, you threw a play at the end of the game that you didn't need to. Run the ball, kick the field goal, get out of Dodge. Okay? Get out of Dodge. You had it. And what did you do? You stopped the clock. And you knew this. On the other side of the ball, you had no pressure all night. By the way, the defensive tackles should be freaking fired tonight. They were atrocious. Bryce Huff is a disaster. After Gardner Johnson made that play, by the way, he did take his helmet off. That you had the game. I thought Kellen Moore called a brutal football game. That was brutal. I thought Hurts in the passing game was horrible. I thought Devontae, they gave him what he wanted. Dude, you cannot sit here tonight and tell me, with all that so-called talent, A.J. Brown is the most important part of that football team and your quarterback's not? Dude, no way. And your defense was terrible. You know what? I'm going to take that back because they did hold him to 22 points, and they did hold him, but you had a 2-minute drive. Cousins goes down the field in 50 seconds and scores.
Let me give it to you. 6 plays, 75 yards.
Terrible.
In 65 seconds with no timeouts, and they take the lead 22-21. Mind you, a 48-yard point after attempt because of an unsportsmanlike conduct by Drake London, and the Eagles lose the ball game. Unbelievable. Unbelievable ending to this game. It looked like the Eagles had it. Scott Van Pelt on the broadcast says, we'll be coming live after the game from the winning team, or from the home team who looks to be winning the game. They blow it.
Over.
Look, I got to ask you, Saquon Barkley drops that pass. What do you make of that play?
Okay, he drops the pass.
You said it, though. Why even
it's a bad play call.
Why even throw that football there?
Don't.
If he makes that catch, Sills,
it's over.
The game's over. The game's over.
I get it, but still, what you're doing down there, Zander, that's a high percentage play when, get this, you have everything on your side. They had burned their timeouts. They burned them. They had nothing. Do you realize that Cousins went down the field with no timeouts? Where was that defense? And that too high safety was a disaster at the end of the day. Did you see Slay get owned in that touchdown catch in the corner? Completely owned.
He got burned.
I mean, Barkley was a star in that game. He's not the GOAT. Listen, catch the ball. He's in the end zone. I get it. But, dude, the play call sucked in the beginning. Kick the field goal.
Well, in there, Sills, another theme that I was watching throughout the game that I thought we were going to skate out of here with the win was the defense was pitiful. I know it didn't really look – I mean, the Falcons only had 15 points till that last drive, so you're kind of like, maybe they're not so bad. No pressure. The Falcons were moving the ball all night. Kirk Cousins was 20-29 for 240. Now, granted, he got 70 yards on that last drive, 2 touchdowns. Bijan Robinson has 14 carries for 97 yards. Tyler Algier has 9 carries for 53 yards. They ran for 152 yards, passed for 230. The defense was pitiful. And then you saw it rear its head in that last drive when Atlanta just marched right down. It was like the Eagles weren't even on the football field. 6 plays, 75 yards in 65 seconds with 0 timeouts, and they win the game. It's unbelievable. The defense, really, they were bad all night, but it really showed up at the worst moment, and the Eagles lose the game because of it.
What was the yards per carry for Bijan Robinson in that game? It had to be 6-7 yards a carry.
It was around 6. I mean, he had 14 carries for 97 yards, so I don't know what the average was.
About 6 carries, because I know this at halftime he had 7.5. Going into half, he had 10 carries for 72 yards. Dude, nope. Where was the pressure?
Nowhere.
This is the second game in a row, Zander, that defense has given no pressure, and the 2 tackles were getting gashed again. Dude, I have to say this to you about Bryce Huff. Him setting the edge was a joke. He got run over every single time when it came to setting the edge. They were running out wide on him. They were running right at him. Dude, he's not a good 3-down player.
No, he's not at all. So that pass rush was non-existent all night. I mean, Jalen Carter, with the exception of the one play where he blew up the backfield, he wasn't anywhere tonight. The whole defensive line, we talked about it, all day today on the shows. Defensive line. They were nowhere, Sills. Bryce Huff, nowhere. Josh Sweat, nowhere behind the line of scrimmage. And this is going to be the result of it when you don't get pressure. And then Kirk Cousins marches his way down the field on the game-winning drive without a hitch. It's unbelievable. It really reared its head at the wrong time.
You know what I will say, though, that I was really glad to see? I saw 22 Hurts. I saw 2022 Hurts, and that is where you look, and he looks his best like that. But Zander, another turnover to ice the game. And you know what? When you watch him throw the ball, I'm sorry, dude. That guy's not going to win you a football game throwing the ball. Here's
what I don't like about that last interception. You still have a timeout. You need 15 yards because you have one of the best kickers in the NFL.
He made a 61-yarder before. Why are you throwing it down there?
We still had 27 or 28 seconds on the clock. You could have gotten 8 yards, 10 yards, 12 yards.
Spike it, let him kick it.
Exactly. Get a couple yards and take the next time out and live to see another down. Instead, he forces a 30-yard throw. Jesse Bates intercepted. We talked about Jesse Bates all day. Great safety over there, for the Atlanta Falcons, and he seals the game. What'd you think of Jalen Hurts' game overall? He was 23 of 30, 183 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. But then also, you're not going to like it, 13 carries for 85 yards and a touchdown on the ground. He was great in the ground game today. What was your take on Jalen Hurts' game today?
A C. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to cut it, dude. He needs to play A football. He has to be the A player in that game when you don't have A.J. Brown. C's not going to cut it. Zander, you know what? The reason I gave him a C, because I thought he made critical plays, and I also thought that he was decent going across the middle of the field. But again, you know what it was really? It was basically all Devontae making those plays. I'll tell you this, Barkley is the savior on that football team that keeps you in these games right now, because Saquon Barkley is some ball player. But, dude, how many carries did he have in this game, Zander? Because
22 carries for 95 yards. He also had 4
carries in 2 weeks. 46 carries in 2 weeks. You know what? He's on pace for 390 carries. Dog, you're not winning football. He's not lasting. I'll tell you what, man, that was a poorly designed. You know what it looked like? It was a rushed game plan after what they found out when AJ wasn't able to go. It looked like they slapped shit together for this game tonight because it was all over the place. Dude, again, Zander, I'm sitting here. I almost jumped off my chair when I saw them do this. Why are you throwing it? If he drops that, the clock stops, and you saved 48 seconds of the clock with that drop. The clock was the enemy of the Falcons. You helped them win that game.
Yeah.
That's, I think, on the head coach, too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That play call there has to come down to the head coach. I'm sure Kellen Moore made the call, but you're the head coach. You got to manage the clock. You're right. I mean, the Falcons had no timeout stuff. You had him dead to rights. All you had to do was ice the game, run out the clock. I mean, I said it. Scott Van Pelt on the broadcast says the Eagles are going to win this game. We'll talk to you after the game from the winner's locker room. Boom. Eagles lose the game.
I'll tell you what, that offensive line too, man. I mean, I thought they played well. but I thought Atlanta's offensive line was the better O-line in that game tonight.
Atlanta's
They were opening up holes. And every single thing that I've been saying about that defense, Zander, was on display tonight. No rush, can't cover. And get this, the safeties, in my opinion, they played awful in that game. I do like the Gardner Johnson play. It was an enormous hit that he stopped. I thought they won the game on that hit. I thought he won the game on that hit.
Yeah.
I did. I thought it was over.
Sills, I'll tell you when I thought the Eagles had this game in the bag, because I did the halftime report. I was not happy with what the first half looked like from this team.
No, it favored the Falcons.
When the Eagles went 17 plays, 70 yards, and took 9.5 minutes off the clock, and then got the 2-point conversion and went up 18-15 in the game, I said, okay, Eagles are going to handle their business right here. And then the Falcons defense was on for obviously 9.5 plays, and then they failed to convert. And I'm like, the defense is gassed. Eagles are going to put the icing here and win this football game. That's when I thought the tide had turned, but, ultimately the Eagles end up losing in the end.
Let me tell you something, too. That was a meltdown at the end of that game. Defensively and offensively, Zander, that was 23 stuff. That was 23 kind of stuff melting down like that. You had that. That game was in the W. You took that W out of the win column, and you put an L there on coaching and game management and situational play calling. That was some of the worst I've ever seen 2-minute defense in what you – and, dude, you're playing so deep off the ball. Cousins guys were not challenged. And get this, the numbers weren't challenged, Zander. The corners were playing so deep that those guys were just walking out of bounds. I mean it, man. That is a poorly coached game tonight.
You could argue this loss comes squarely on the coaches with the way you handled.
That was a terribly coached game.
The way they handled the end of the game. I mean, the play calling, the clock management, the whole thing is just brutal. And the Eagles end up losing the game because of it. It's easy to point the finger at Saquon, right? He had the drop pass, and obviously, I thought he was great tonight. The play call sucked. The play call sucked. It was a brutal play call. Obviously, you want him to make the play, so I'm not going to let him off the hook for not making the play, but I can't put the loss on his shoulders. I just can't.
No, I'm not either. I'm not. That was a complete meltdown. And by the way, you should have been good enough defensively to stop. Kirk Cousins wasn't doing shit tonight, really. He wasn't, but I'll tell you what they did. Remember what we said, Zander, in the pregame and also on my show. If you don't get pressure tonight on him and you don't get pressure on him, he's going to pick you apart. He picked them apart in the most critical situation. That was in that 2-minute drive. 2-minute drive, that was in that minute drive that he went.
Yeah, 65
He went down the
seconds.
field in, what was it, 50 seconds?
Yeah, 65 seconds. 6 plays, 75 yards in 65 seconds. And by the way, they had no timeouts. They did it with no timeouts. Mark, right down the field. That defense got absolutely shredded. People talking about in the chat, bend but don't break. By the way, thanks everybody for being here tonight. JAKIB postgame show brought to you by Live Casino Hotel Philadelphia. That's Dan Sileo. I'm Zander Krause. We'll talk to John McMullen coming up once he gets done his postgame interview. So he's live.
Where's Bryce Huff?
Where is Bryce Huff, Big Sills? That's the question of the night. The whole defensive line really was brutal tonight, but Bryce Huff, man, the $17 million edge rusher, another game. Not only did he not show up, Sills, he looked like a liability.
He was a liability in the run game. Absolutely great call. By the way, where's the 30th pick? Where's Nolan Smith?
Yeah, he was brutal again tonight.
They have no edge rush. You know who the only edge rusher they have is?
Brandon Graham. I said it, Sills, at halftime. It's 2024. And 35-year-old Brandon Graham is still the best edge rusher on the Philadelphia Eagles. It's unbelievable.
This comes back to building the football team the way Howie did in the offseason. He gambled on Huff, thinking that he would be a 3-down guy. He thought that Nolan Smith would develop into being a little bit more than what everyone saw a year ago when it was his first year and you gave him the pass. By the way, Jalen Carter had a sack. That was good to see.
Yeah, but look, it's a one-off. It was a one-off play.
It was.
The other plays, he was nowhere to be found. He created no – look, before the game on the pregame show, you said forget sacks from the guys in the middle. Yep. I need you to collapse the pocket and make Kirk Cousins get off his mark. They didn't collapse the pocket at all, Sills. They didn't even move those offensive linemen back at all. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis were non-existent tonight, with the exception of that great play where Jalen had the sack.
How about this, too? You know, I was telling you that Drake London wasn't going to beat you. Well, he did.
Yeah.
In the final drive, he made the critical plays in the final drive. Dude, that football team is not in the Philadelphia Eagles league. And for them to pull out that win like that shows you more defense. And you know what? You got New Orleans on the back end of this now.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I'm going to tell you something. You better have your chin straps ready because that defense – and by the way, did you hear what Troy Aikman said, too, in the broadcast? He said that, hey, they're even saying AJ's going to miss the New Orleans game.
Yep, they reported that AJ might miss next week, so it looks like AJ will be without. They almost
miss AJ in that New Orleans game, you'll lose that game too.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough uphill battle with New Orleans red hot right now. Sills, I am going to take a couple of our super chats. Can't get to everybody. I promise by the end of the show tonight, I will get to every single super chat. That's my promise to you guys. If you drop money on the show, I will read it out. I just can't do them all right now. Let's go to Brian Fleming, $10. Brian, thank you, man, for the super chat. He checks in. Pass rush is garbage. Can't blame the field now. That soft high shell gets shredded as always. No blitzes, and Bijan had 97 yards. Then, like clockwork, Hurts with the picks because he doesn't see a safety. Brian basically sums up the game right there with the problem with this game.
Zander, you said it perfect too, that they panicked when they threw that deep throw when you're 14 yards away from giving. Hey, listen, Jalen Hurts throwing a 40-yard pass down the field to try to get you in scoring position, or a 15-yard pass to put Elliott, who's almost money from 50. Are you kidding me? Why wouldn't you go with the high percentage play to get Elliott in a position to kick? What is he, the top 3 guys in the league? I'm going to get that guy in a position to win the ball game instead of throwing a 40-yard pass down the field. And get this, you're throwing it to the 2 dudes that I told you couldn't throw it to, Bates and Simmons. Yeah. And Bates and Simmons were great tonight.
Yeah, Bates made you pay, and he iced the game with that interception. Let's go to another super chat here. Brian Pumper checks in. Fellas, it defies logic passing the ball on 3rd and 3. That's 40 seconds off the clock. Even then, Hurts hero ball. I'm scouting college quarterbacks now. Sills, just your take on that 3rd and 3 play call down at the goal line. I mean, brutal play.
I'm not doing that. I'm not throwing the ball down there. I'm going to run it, kick the field goal. But get this. Guess what you do there. Think about what you do with that down there on 3rd and 3. And Brian, you're right. Watch this. You get points and you kill the clock. You get 2 for 1 with that. Instead, you get no points and you save 40 seconds. Dude, it was a double whammy. Think about that at the end of the ball game there. 26 seconds were left when they got the ball or something like that, right? When the Eagles got the ball, it was 26 seconds. Zander, that 40 seconds of non-runoff was the game.
No doubt. Your doubt. Look, I'm going to bring up another issue here, and I'm sure you're going to talk about it all week on the National Football Show, 2 to 6 Eastern every single day on JAKIB, or Monday through Friday on JAKIB Sports. In 2022, Sills, here's a stat for you. Jalen Hurts, through 18 games, had 9 turnovers. In his last 20 games played, he's up to 24 turnovers. I know it was the last play of the game. I thought he played a clean game. Otherwise, but a critical part of the game. All you had to do was get 15 yards, and the Eagles might skate by and get a win here with a field goal from Jake Elliott. He makes a bad decision to force that ball down the field. Jesse Bates turns it over. Intercepts the ball. How concerned are you with Jalen Hurts and the turnovers?
Absolutely incredibly awful right now because, like you said, I had a stat that I was talking last week, 18 games. He's had 23 turnovers. Yep. I got 19 games, 24 turnovers. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, okay, this is not – so how many turnovers does he have in the first 2 weeks of the season? What are you looking at, 4?
Yeah, 4
He's
turnovers.
got 4 turnovers already. And get this, the passing game, the first one against Green Bay was mediocre. The second one was terrible. I didn't really think outside of Devontae, they didn't do anything. Couple passes. And I thought when they opened up the game going to Goddard up the middle, I was thinking, okay, that's good, okay, because then they handed the ball off to Barkley. I said, all right, they're going to establish these 2 guys, and then they're going to loosen up the secondary for Devontae coming across the middle. They completely got to. Kellen Moore, that's a F. He was terrible in his play calling tonight. I thought he was terrible, man. He put that team in a position. Dude, you were running the ball down Atlanta's throat with Barkley. Barkley was gashing them too.
I know.
And so was Thielen.
Even
was Thielen gashing them.
Even back to that first half, the first good Eagles drive, they go 4 plays with Saquon Barkley, and he runs for 39 yards in 4 plays. Then they get down into the red zone. They go 3 straight passing plays. They went for it on 4th down and left with no points. Now, listen, I'm not an offensive coordinator. I don't profess to know NFL offense better than Kellen Moore. Why do you go away from the run there? He gashed that defense the whole drive, and then you get down to the inside the red zone, and it's like, we forget we have Saquon Barkley? I don't understand that type of play calling in the NFL. It drives me nuts.
There was no reason to get away from your best player on the field. Your best player on the field was your running back. And then the second best guy on the field was Hurts. Those guys, dude, when I saw Jalen Hurts.
I thought outside the interception, I thought Hurts turned it around and had a decent night tonight. I thought his second half was pretty good.
Again, though, he was predictable. Did Dotson play? I mean, I love the fact
Dotson had 1 catch early in the game.
Okay. You know what I did like? I liked when they threw Devontae in the slot in there, down in the red. I did. But how about the other guys? You know what it became, Zander? Predictable again. Because with no AJ, who was the second guy who had the most catches? Was it Goddard?
Receptions was actually Britton Covey, but he only had 23 yards on 6 receptions. I mean, Dallas Goddard. We talked about Dallas Goddard all day, though. Now, he had 3 catches for 38 yards, but 2 of those catches came in the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game. He was nowhere for the entire – I kept saying, is Dallas Goddard out there? Where is Dallas Goddard? Are they going to throw to Dallas Goddard? They didn't use him at all.
Look at what Raheem did in the game. Raheem said – you know what Raheem did? Hey, let Devontae get his yards. Go ahead. Because the other guys aren't going to beat me. That's exactly what he did. He knew those other – he said Barkley was going to be – he knew Barkley was the guy. I'll tell you what, I give Raheem credit. He was poised, and I don't know. You got to give Kirk Cousins credit. Well, I don't know how much credit you give him. You have to give more credit probably to the Eagle defense for no pressure.
Well, you know what, Sills? The NFL is a game of inches. And this super chat, I'm going to bring it up. I'm going to go to a couple more super chats. It is as true as it gets, and it's an unfortunate reality for Eagles fans. But this is the truth when you look at this game. I don't care how Kirk Cousins played in the rest of the game. In clutch, relative says, tale of 2 QBs in clutch time kind of says it all. One was up to the challenge, the other wasn't. When Kirk Cousins needed to march down the field, 6 plays, 75 yards in 65 seconds with no timeouts, and the Falcons win the game. Kirk Cousins showed up when he needed to show up. So, for all the people that say Kirk sucks in primetime, Kirk sucks on Monday Night Football, any given Sunday in this league, and Kirk Cousins came and he won the game for them at the end of on that last drive.
All the things that I feared about your defense were on display tonight. No rush, no linebacker cover. Your secondary plays too far off the ball. My God Almighty. They were so scared of getting beat deep that they were too deep. The safeties were 25 yards back, and the corners were 15 yards off the. Hey, Zander, how in the world are you really telling me that you're going to play that far off the ball with an experienced quarterback? Hey, I'll play that far off the ball if I've got a pass rusher that's rushing the passer and getting to the quarterback. I get that. But when you have no rush and you barely can stop, I thought that Falcons were going to run the ball down on the goal line with about 40 seconds left, or 38, 39, 40 seconds left, so that they didn't give the Eagles any time. Dude, once they got down there inside the red zone, that thing was over. They were not stopping that thing.
Yeah, no doubt. We're going to get to our first commercial break. I'll take a couple more super chats here. Appreciate everybody. As I pointed out to you, any super chat you guys drop tonight, I will get to it by the end of the show. And then on the post-game show, we will bring up a couple Eagles fans as we did last week as well. So thanks, everybody, for the super chat. Stick Shift checks in. He says, at Sileo, what about Huff? He was a liability, didn't contain the edge in the run, and had 0 pass rush. He quit a lot. What do you think? Sil's your response to Stick Shift.
Absolutely. And you're right. Stick Shift, when they were running the ball on the perimeter, he was getting wedged down into pursuit. You know, Zander, it was so bad. And Stick Shift, post it in here in the chat if you can. He got blocked so far down into the line of scrimmage that he knocked the pursuit angles off of the linebackers that were trying to make a play on Bijan Robinson. Zander, he got blown into the pursuit, which means he was picked up and thrown into the pursuit. He is terrible. Let's plain and simple. His 2 games so far, his 8 quarters, he's terrible, man.
You ready for the stats? You ready for the stats? Bryce Huff, 2 games, 0 sacks, 0 QB hits, 0 hurries, 0 tackle for losses, 0 solo tackles, and 1 assisted tackle.
And 17-8.
And 17-8 million.
17.
That's your Bryce Huff stats so far. That's a pitiful start to the career. And by the way, tonight was a pass rusher's dream. Kirk Cousins couldn't move around a lot at all. He was a statue in the pocket again, holding on to the football a lot. I mean, if we had, I hate to say it and I hate to live in the past, but this team needs Hassan Reddick. This team needs a player like Hassan Reddick who's so fast and so explosive around the edge. He wrecks games and forces that quarterback clock to hurry up by a second. We didn't have it tonight. We just didn't have it.
I'd like to have asked Howie on the sidelines there a question when he was standing there getting ready to jump up and down over the win. And then he realized the defense that he didn't build was on display. That's also on him, dude. I mean, he can't get away from the fact that he put less talent on that side of the ball. There's no way to get around that. Remember what Vic Fangio said. Vic Fangio's scheme is not going to save you. Players save you. I thought Quinyon Mitchell, I thought he was okay. I didn't think he was special. And then, dude, in a 2-minute drill, they put in Cooper DeJean. I'm like, really? Really? Okay. I mean, wow. This guy's played no football, and you put him out there in a 2-minute drill. Okay. Well, I guess he looked at it like this, Zander. Well, you know what? He can't be as bad as anything else that's going on out here. Let's get him some reps. Dude, here, let me go down the list here. Josh Sweat, non-factor. Jordan Davis, completely shit the bed tonight.
So he looks like he doesn't belong on the field at times. Jordan Davis.
Boy, I got to tell you, dude, I'm starting to get into a position here where I'm starting to do this. I think he's an NFL player, and I think he's okay. But the 13th pick, man, listen, I don't see it. I just do not see it. Carter, he's got to play lower, man, under his pads because he was getting drilled off the ball. Like you said, Brandon Graham played the best of anybody on the front 4. I mean, he was the best. Huff was the worst. Nolan Smith is non-existent. Where was Kobe Dean? Where's the Kobe Dean? Where was he?
Nowhere. He was nowhere tonight.
Okay. Zach Bond was, dude, anybody who thought really Zach Bond was going to be what we saw in Green Bay, I was hoping just for him, and I didn't think he was terrible. But again, he had terrible moments too. The safeties, where was Reed Blankenship tonight?
Yeah, Reed Blankenship was a liability tonight. Now, Nakobe Dean had a couple plays where I was like, okay, that was a good play. Reed Blankenship, there were several plays where he looked like a liability in coverage specifically.
That entire unit, there wasn't one person on that unit who played well. Not one player. Can you pick one guy on defense out where you went, hey, I
thought Brandon Graham played okay.
Brandon Graham. Okay, Brandon Graham. Brandon Graham at 36 years old?
Yeah, 35. Wow. Yep.
Get this.
No, it's a joke.
You can't replace Brandon Graham?
Look, Howie made a bad move getting rid of Hassan Reddick. He really did. That guy should be here right now. He should be pass rushing for the Philadelphia Eagles. But instead, we were afraid to give him a couple extra bucks. You would have given him, what, $22 million? You gave Bryce 17. Spend the $5 extra million to bring back your star edge rusher. Doesn't make sense to me. And look, this defense looks like they're going to be reeling because of it. We'll go to one more super chat, Sills, and then we'll get to our commercial break.
By the way, I like the kid Booker. I do agree. I think Booker played
Booker made some plays tonight. Booker was okay tonight. But look, if you're relying on Thomas Booker to man your defense, you're in trouble. So that's just the brutal truth. Brandon Snyder says, total missed opportunity to pick up a game on the other 3 teams in the NFC who choked this weekend in the Lions, Niners, and Cowboys. No doubt, Brandon Snyder. Eagles definitely let one slip here. Falcons march down the field in 65 seconds for 75 yards and win this game.
No timeouts.
Yeah, and Drake, Slay was just meeting with Drake London at the middle of the field. He told him, "Great route, bro." So I'm sure Eagles are going to have fans are going to have a feel with that. He said, "Good route, good route." So Darius Slay shows some love to Drake London on the field after he burns. And we're going to take our first commercial break. John McMullen will join us.
Like that, I can't stand. You know what? Maybe I'm just old man.
Yeah, you're old school. I mean, you came from an era
I hate
of
that stuff.
You came from an era of convicts versus Catholics, baby.
No fraternizing after a loss.
No, I hear you. So we're going to get to our first commercial break. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Thank you for all the super chats. By the end of the show, I will get to every single super chat. So thanks all you guys. Hit that like button. We'll have John McMullen coming up live from the Lincoln Financial Field once he wraps up at the press conferences. So looking forward to getting John's take on the show. Stay tuned, everybody. The JAKIB postgame show will be back in 3 minutes.